Welcome to Anti-Woke and Autistic. Now, let's look at this Instagram post here. She says, think about it. I don't know why she's got a question mark after that, like she's unsure about herself. She says, conditions often tied to obesity, such as diabetes and high blood pressure, also exist in thin people. What's prescribed for thin people with these conditions? Things like eating more fruits and vegetables and whole grains, regular exercise and medication, which of course she says are also what's told that to fat people to do when they have those conditions. There's a few problems here. All right, first of all, if she's so sure about what she's saying here, if she really believes in all of this stuff, and I'm sure she does on some level, why is she afraid to put the E in obesity? What's she afraid of? What's she ashamed of? What's she ashamed about putting that E in obesity? I mean, that makes their statements, that makes their cause, their campaign less credible. When you don't spell out the whole word, when you stick an asterisk or a symbol in place of a letter, you actually bring down your credibility, what little of it you have. Don't these people realize this? If you're so sure about your campaign and your message, why would you do something like not spell out the word completely? If you're so sure about your campaign and your message, why would you do something such as not spelling out a word completely by sticking in a symbol in place of a letter? Why would you do something like that if you want people to think like you, if you want to sway their opinions or their perspectives over to yours? I mean, that's a pretty lame campaign when you put an asterisk in there. It means deep down inside, you know you're wrong. Okay, so she's wrong here too. Conditions often tied to obesity. At least she admits that. At least she admits that these conditions, diabetes, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure, are often tied to obesity. At least she admits that. They also exist in thin people. What she's not telling you is that type 2 diabetes isn't only caused by obesity. It could also be caused by a combination of a poor diet, inactivity, and hereditary factors. So that would explain why non-overweight people can get type 2 diabetes. I knew a man who had a normal frame. He wasn't overweight and he had type 2 diabetes. I don't know what his background was, but look it up. According to medical literature, about 80% of type 2 diabetics are obese, okay? 80%. So yes, thinner people get type 2 diabetes, but there's more than one cause of type 2 diabetes. Now, high blood pressure, then people get high blood pressure. Did you know that smoking causes high blood pressure? Hello? Did you know that a high sodium diet causes high blood pressure? This is stuff that you can find in any pamphlet in a doctor's office. I don't need to have a medical degree. This is pamphlet information. High blood pressure. You see things hanging up on the walls in medical clinics about high blood pressure. What are the causes? There's a whole bunch of them. I mean, if you want to get really nitpicky about this, untreated sleep apnea can cause high blood pressure. Yes, then people could get obstructive sleep apnea. Obstructive sleep apnea has many causes. One of them is obesity. So what this woman here is failing to tell you, that high blood pressure has many causes, which is why thin people can get high blood pressure. Guess what? Living a very stressful life can cause high blood pressure, even if you're thin. She's failing to tell you that. Of course, the fact that the treatments are similar in thin people as in overweight people, as far as get more structured exercise, reduce stress levels, eat more whole grains and fruits and vegetables, take some medication, that's irrelevant. She is, you know something? I bet she never made the cut for her high school's debate team. She then says, would fat people with these same conditions not also benefit from these suggestions, like medication, eat a healthier diet, regardless of their weight? Well, that's what I just said. But that's irrelevant. Again, very poor argument. She definitely flunked out of Debating Skills 101. Now, she says here, telling someone to lose weight to help their health condition is literally prescribing them something with a greater than 95% failure rate. Oof. Oh my goodness, here we go again. justifying giving up weight loss journeys because allegedly there's a 95 or 90% failure rate. Guess what? It's the dieter that fails. Yeah, there are exceptions. There are some crazy, weird diets out there that nobody could stick to. But most people, I don't know what percentage, and I don't think anybody really knows what percentage, but I'd like to think that a lot of people who want to lose weight do so in a non sustainable fashion. An example of how limited the cognitive skills are of these fat acceptance cult members is that they never consider the reason that 90% of diets fail. The reason that 90% of diets fail is because of all the people who are trying to lose weight, about 90% of them are doing it wrong. If 90% fail, and there's actually questions about whether that figure is actually correct, if it's really as high as 90%. But whether it's 90% or 75%, that means 90% or 75% are doing it incorrectly. Why is that concept so difficult for these fat acceptance influencers to comprehend? Some people would say, well, it's because they're fat. And fatness causes inflammation in the brain and negatively affects executive thinking or figuring, the ability to figure and comprehend and think at a higher level. It impairs cognitive skills, especially if you've been fat since childhood. It messes up the brain. It decreases the amount of certain kinds of brain matter. So by the time you're an adult, you've been fat all your life, your brain actually has less of certain kinds of matter or tissue than it would if you had not been fat. So this affects your ability to reason. Yeah, a lot of people would argue that. And it's actually in the medical literature. There are studies definitely showing that obesity negatively affects the brain. So maybe that's why they don't grasp the simple concept of if 90% of people try something, or if 90% of the people who try something fail at it, that means they did it wrong. Hello, wake up. It's like starting a business. It's something like 80% of new businesses fail in 2 years, within 2 years, something like that. I mean, look it up. It's some kind of figure like that. 80% of new businesses go belly up within 2 years. Does that mean you shouldn't start a business? If you're reading that and you want to start some kind of business and you read that, you come across that statistic, and then you decide, well, you know something, I don't want to open up my flower shop. I don't want to open up my daycare center because I just read that 80% of new businesses fail after 2 years. Therefore, I'm not going to start my own landscaping business. I'm not going to start my own house cleaning business. I'm not going to open up an antique store because I just read that 80% of businesses fail within 2 years. Who cares if other people fail and do it wrong? It's none of your business. If you want to achieve a goal, go for it. So if you want to lose weight, to better your health, even to look better, there is nothing criminal or heinous to want to look better. There's nothing criminal or heinous or immoral or unethical about wanting to lose weight to look better. These fat acceptance cult members want you to believe it's a moral failing to want to lose weight to look better. See, I went off a tangent a little bit. There's so much muck tied into this fat acceptance nonsense. So anyways, 90% fail means, so if 90% fail, don't let that stop you. Why don't you be the success? If these fat acceptance influencers, cult members had any ounce of common sense, they would think, okay, let's find out what these 90%ers, 95%ers, whatever, are doing wrong and not do it. So if 90% are failing, or if 90% of diets fail, that means 10% work. Let's find out what the 10%ers are doing that the 90 percenters are not doing, and let's emulate, let's copy, let's mimic what the 10 percenters are doing. Hello, that's common sense to do that. So if you want to open up a business, you don't want to do what the 80 percenters who will fail in 2 years are doing. You don't want to do what they're doing. You don't want to copy them. You want to find out what the 20% are doing, whose businesses are thriving after 2 years. And you want to copy them so you could be in the 20% group of successful business owners, not in that 80% who fail after 2 years. This is common sense. And these fat acceptance cult members are completely missing the boat here. So if 90% are failing, don't let that scare you away. Don't ever use that as an excuse to give up and be a quitter. Don't let that 90% figure, don't use that 90% figure as an excuse to become a quitter and join the fat acceptance death cult. Think about it. If the failure rate of graduating from medical school is 15%, and I'm just tossing that number out. I don't know what it is really, but there is definitely a failure rate, a percentage failure rate of associated with not completing medical school. And let's suppose you want to be a doctor. Would you base whether or not you want to pursue medical school on how many other people or what percentage of students drop out of medical school? That would be ridiculous. So if you want to lose weight, don't base whether or not you're going to try a weight loss program on the fact that some people fail at it. If they fail, that's none of your business. Back to what I was saying before when I went off on a tangent there, it's perfectly okay to want to lose weight to look better. Fat acceptance people are always preaching how being fat or failing to lose weight is not a moral failing. It's not a moral failing. Having a big body, being fat, is not a moral failing, but they act as though wanting to lose weight to look better is a moral failing. The way they talk about how you shouldn't do that and how wrong it is to want to get a trimmer waist, to want to slim down your thick thighs, to want to get more toned, sleek looking arms, to want to get abdominal definition, to want to get a smaller waist, flatter stomach. The way they talk about that, they're clearly sending the message that they believe it's a moral failing to want those things, to want to lose weight, to achieve those things. They're being hypocrites. At least a few times a week, I receive comments and DMs from concerned people saying that they understand what I'm saying and that it's true that society puts pressure on us to be way too skinny, but that there are extremes, meaning that there are people who are extremely fat. And what about people with conditions that are exacerbated or made worse by being extremely fat? So she then responds to that. Well, let me go back. There's something that she said there that troubles me. And when I say trouble, that doesn't mean I'm going to lose sleep over it. Where does she get off saying that society puts pressure on us to be way too skinny? Not once have I ever been subjected to the pressure to be way too skinny. What's her definition of way too skinny? Well, my definition of way too skinny is way too skinny. There's pressure maybe to lose weight so that you don't look fat or so that you're not fat, but there is no pressure to be way too skinny. If there is, you let me know about it. You tell me, where is that pressure? When I was growing up, I always watched the Miss America, the Miss USA, and the Miss Universe pageants, and I never thought those women were skinny. You might say with a camera adds weight and all that nonsense. But I was also exposed to other media where so-called skinny women were shown, such as magazines, leading roles in movies and in TV shows. At no point in my life was I ever subjected to the pressure to be skinny or way too skinny. My teachers, my math teacher, my history teacher, my Spanish teacher, my health teacher, my science teacher, my gym teacher, my volleyball coach, nobody ever told me, if you don't get real skinny, you won't make the volleyball team. You won't make the softball team. You won't make the science club. You won't get on the school newspaper. I never heard anything like that. Where is this pressure? Where is this so-called pressure to be way too skinny? Let's take the word way out of it. Let's just say too skinny. Still, where is that pressure to be too skinny? Some ballet schools, some teachers might be, some instructors, dance schools, they might put some heat on thicker students to lose some weight. Maybe gymnastics, maybe figure skating, but the vast majority of females are not in serious ballet training, serious gymnastics training, or serious dance training. They're just not. The typical American female is not subjected to the pressure to be way too skinny. Now, their parents might be putting some pressure on them not to gain weight or to lose some weight, but that's not the same as being pressured to be too skinny. So if a girl is 5'2" and weighs 140, her mother might be putting some pressure on her or nagging her to stop snacking so much. But is her mother telling her you need to get down to 85 pounds? That rarely ever happens. Come on. Where is this fantasy coming from? Pressure to be too skinny? I know I keep going on and on about this, but these fat acceptance influencers keep going on and on about it too. And something has to oppose that to straighten them out. So she says next, so I get these feelings and thoughts. I wrestled with these things myself as I learned more about health at every size and intuitive eating. But by the end of the day, there is no way for people to lose weight and keep it off for good that works for the majority. The focus of weight loss just has a higher chance of creating worse health outcomes for the individual. So no, it's never a good idea to focus on, and it's not necessary to ever focus on. Approximately 300 or 350,000 people in America die every year from complications of obesity, not from complications of trying to lose weight. There are people who do die from being too thin, people with anorexia nervosa, that could cause organs to shut down, but talking about a rare condition such as anorexia nervosa, I'm talking about your typical woman or man who wants to lose weight, who wants to get rid of the big stomach, who wants to go from obesity to just a normal size, who wants to drop 20 pounds, who wants to go like from a size 18 to a 10. They'd be happy at a 10. They're not trying to be a 0, a size 2 or a 0. A man who's like 5'11", 240, he wants to get down to 190. There's nothing wrong with that. So just because it doesn't work for the majority, again, that goes back to what I was saying before. Find out what the majority is doing wrong and don't copy that. Find out what the minority who succeeds is doing right and copy them. It's such a simple formula, but it goes right over the heads of these fat acceptance delusional cult quitter members. Yeah, fat acceptance is a quitter's cult. They quit. They quit trying to lose weight. And then they invent reasons why the weight didn't come off. Oh, it's genetics. Oh, I was meant to be big and all this other jazz. Okay, so intuitive eating. Don't get me started on intuitive eating. If I ate intuitively, I'd be porking out on junk food, which is not good for the body. Even if I didn't gain weight, it's still not good for the body. At the end of the day, there's no way for people to lose weight and keep it off. Yes, there is. It's called exercise and portion control. Intense exercise. No, I don't mean holding on to the treadmill and pretending to walk. I don't mean vacuuming the living room. I mean real exercise, particularly high-intensity interval training and intense compound strength training. Compound meaning it works multiple muscle groups at once or more than one joint at the same time. I see women trying to lose weight. They're standing for 15 minutes doing these damn dumbbell curls with 2-pound dumbbells, and they wonder why they're not losing weight. Get out of here. Worse health outcomes. Again, no proof whatsoever. But if you look at top causes of death, you're not going to see repeated attempts at weight loss. Now, before you say, well, repeated attempts at weight loss can cause heart disease, and heart disease is a top cause of death. Okay, and you might be thinking, well, repeated attempts at weight loss causes something in those top 10, like heart disease or kidney disease or pneumonia. That's BS. That is total BS. If I'm wrong, prove it. Post in the comments some kind of a link to medical literature that shows with astounding conviction based on many, many large studies that repeated attempts at weight loss, whether you want to call it yo-yo dieting, call it what you want, is a leading cause of death or a major cause of death, or in the top 10 or even the top 20, top 25 causes of death. Go ahead, find the medical literature and post the link in my comments section. That's BS. So in summary, if you want to lose weight, to look better, to look good, go for it. If you want to lose weight, to move better, to feel better, to sleep better, to lower your blood pressure, to improve your blood work, or to prevent something bad from happening, go for it. Never mind that supposedly 90% of dieters fail or 90% of diets fail. If somebody is doing something wrong to achieve the same goal or result that you want to achieve, don't measure your potential success, your potential long-term success, on whether or not they're successful. Never mind if other people fail at achieving the same goal that you want for yourself. Just do it. Just do it. Never mind what the fat acceptance death cult says. 90% of diets fail. Never mind that. It's none of your business. Don't do what the failures do. Don't be a failure and quit. You know who the failures are? The fat acceptance people, because they're all quitters. A quitter is a failure. A failure is a quitter. Don't go in that direction. Don't go to the dark side. Don't go to the sinister side. Find out what the successful ones are doing and copy them. Copy the successful people. It's a simple formula. So that's it for today's video. Have an amazing day.